everybody, I'm Josh.
And I'm Eitan.
Welcome back to the 34th episode of the Young Half Podcast. We are two 14-year boys from New Jersey who discuss, debate, and share insights and everything from history to politics, sports, current events, and more. Follow us on Instagram at the Young Half and all their social media platforms. Twitter, that's a big one. We make a lot of announcements there. To see more of our podcasts, check us out on your favorite podcasting platform at the Young Half. You can also check out our YouTube channel to see our faces during our podcast at the Younger Half. And if you would like to help grow the podcast by supporting us with a monthly donation, head to anchor.fm/theyoungerhalf/support or click on the link in the description. For this week's episode, we have our trivia question, and we obviously have the big time GameStop stock situation, but it's with a twist. One of our good buddies, you all know him, it will be joining us. Technically, he joined us. He will be joining us. He will be joining us to discuss the situation. Stick around. That will be rolling in like 3 minutes from now or so, probably less.
But yeah.
Whatever. And then we have a debate question and a little bit of sports and the answer to the trivia question. So, Eitan, what you got it? And also, we mentioned from history to politics that eventually, not going to give a timeline, eventually, that will be making a return, a history special. Let us know if you have any good ideas for those. That'll just take time because those take a very long time to craft and research. So be patient with us for that, and eventually we'll probably tweet it out when we get closer to that. Yes. So Eitan, what do you got anything to add?
I was gonna say, just like let us know if you have any history, events that you'd like us to touch on, and yeah.
And also, so just another minor announcement is, we have some big time interviews in the work. Let's just say we'll say a public servant. I think I actually said that last time.
Servant. Bow down, Majesty.
Mazzy, you get the point. Leave it at that, and also some potential athletes. Some more people. So stick around for those. I did enough talking. So Eitan, why don't you take away with the trivia question?
All right. So this week's trivia question, again, a little bit random, like
Brought
the
to you
B
by
question. Soon, hopefully, if any of you have businesses, hit us up. But
so yeah, hit us up with that trivia question, Eitan.
Yeah, so similar to the B question, a little bit random, but
how many legs does a dog have?
How many parts, screws and bolts included, does the average car have?
Ooh. Wow.
It's a good one.
I feel like I can either completely overguess this,
or completely underguess it, right?
I don't even know.
All right, so we'll discuss the answer later.
Yeah, we'll send it over to 10 minutes ago past us for the interview, or not interview, for the addition of Josh. So let's start with some GameStop stock situation, real tongue twister. So for the first segment of the episode, we are gonna have a special guest who you guys have met before. You should recognize him. Named by Josh Stiefel, former Scholastic Kids reporter. That we interviewed him, the longest episode, fun fact, on the Younger Half. Go check that out if you don't know who he is. And he's here. Yes. We figured it would be interesting to have a third view. Somebody with a little bit of a higher IQ to come in and help us out with a more complicated topic. So how you doing, Josh?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Okay. So kind of just start off by explain just first give us the first step to understanding this GameStop stock situation, because obviously a lot of us have heard about what is going on with mutual funds, a lot of terms that not all of us know. So help us break it down a little bit.
All right, so it's a little bit of a strange thing going on right now. It's kind of unique to our time today in the pandemic and everything else going on. But it's a little bit of it's never really happened before. So I'm assuming that you guys understand the stock market, and I'm hoping that some listeners have some basic grasp of how that works, right?
Yeah.
You may want to lower your expectations slightly.
We hope so too.
if you need a quick refresher, the way the stock market works is that if a company decides
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah.
they want to spend their finances, they could make their shares of their company, like little parts of the ownership of the company,
Oh,
public.
really?
Yeah, exactly, just like
Mm,
that. And
okay. I'm taking
and
notes. Don't worry.
and it's open to the market. It's called the stock market, where or publicly traded companies can sell shares of their company that an everyday person can just buy using the internet or some kind of
Yeah,
program.
so if you're interested in purchasing the Younger Half stock, then I'm joking. I don't. Calm down.
I would
Available
totally,
now.
totally. No, but essentially, how the stock market works is that people can own portions of a company.
Right.
So what that means for the current situation, right, is that there's this video game company that it's going out of date a little bit, but we've all heard of it. It's called GameStop.
Right. Yeah, it was actually my yeah. Sorry, keep going.
No, no, no. What's up?
No, I was gonna I believe my father. This is for those who don't have like a game console. Obviously, you originally how it would like the only way to purchase a video game was to buy the disc. Now the reason why GameStop is fully Steve's laughing over here because this seems obvious to him, but not everyone has a console at home. So but now the way it works is how I purchase all my games now
You
is
download it, right?
you just go over to the Microsoft Store or whatever it's called on PlayStation. And you just look up Madden 21 and you press the buy button. That's how it works, and it's on your console. It takes an hour to download. Boom, quick and easy. No more ordering on Amazon. So that's kind of why they've been dipping in stock recently because they haven't been fully succeeding, right?
Right. So that's definitely a part of it. On the larger scale, something that's really been affecting how GameStop exists as their existence as a company is that it's difficult to sell. I mean, you basically summarized it there. It's difficult to sell, discs when you have to go out to a store to get them, when it's so much more easily accessible just to hit a few
Right.
buttons on whatever you own and just to buy a game online.
And download it, right?
So, right, exactly. So, regardless of how the situation works, right, what affects a stock's, value going up or going down is the number of shares of it that are bought, the number of shares that are owned. So, the more shares of a company that are owned, right, the less value shares in it that you might buy have because they have less of an effect on the stock, right? So the price might be higher because more and more people are buying the stock. But there's an idea called a market cap, right? The market cap is the total amount of money owned in shares of the stock. So if the market cap is very, very high, then the value of the stock will go up, and buying a share in that stock will essentially have A, be more expensive, B, have more value, but C, it will really just affect how prices change, in the varying amount. It will affect it more if the prices are higher or lower, or it depends on, it's a very complicated system. But to get to this specific instance of what's going on, there, it's totally unique and wild. It's honestly, I
At
guess in this time
Right.
of the
at
pandemic,
at Reddit.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So there's this social media online called Reddit that many of you listening at home might have heard of. And what Reddit
I
essentially
hope
does
so.
is it's a it's a message board. People can post different thoughts, share ideas. It's like any other social media.
Right, you could
But
be
this
in
is one
different groups and you can chat to each other, right? Everything like that.
right, right, exactly. So there's this one Reddit message board that's been popular for a while. It's called Wall Street Bets. And what Wall Street Bets does is essentially it discusses different stock options. So there was this one guy on Wall Street Bets. I can't really say his name on this podcast, but it's like, a lot of fun. Decided that'd be an interesting idea to try to get other people to invest in GameStop. Josh is laughing because it's a little strange, but it's totally
Feel free to
unprecedented. This has
Google
never
it.
happened. Feel free to Google it if you're above the age of 13. But what happened here is that this guy on Wall Street Bets decided that he should try to get lots of people because it has a low market cap. It has a very low price. To try to see if other people would invest in GameStop with him. And what was totally jeez, was that
Very
tons of people,
unpresidential.
very unpresidential, was that tons of people decided
Yeah.
to just buy into this idea. It's a ridiculous thing. It's this random small stock for a company that's slowly becoming less and less relevant as times go on. And this guy got millions of people
Yeah,
around the country to
millions,
buy
right?
shares in GameStop. It's
Wow.
insane. he went. I think he made something like $48 million from GameStop over time, and there was one day this week when he made 28
Jeez.
million in one day. Yeah, it was insane.
Because
This
and
guy's
that's obviously, I'm just making sure, because that's obviously because of the increase in purchases of shares.
right, exactly.
Okay.
So people started
Is
flooding
there
in online.
like is there a reason that he like picked
Yeah, he
GameStop, do you think?
yeah,
Like just
isn't
because
that
he had shares
that's
in
like
it?
a whole story, right? Steve, you're gonna
Right.
get
So
into
I've been
that with
reading.
like the
There's some
mutual
great
funds and
articles.
everything like that.
Right. So there's some great articles about this from the Wall Street Journal and from the New York Times. But essentially what happened is that it's a company that very few people are interested in lately, right? They similar things happened. Other people decided to pick up the similar ideology and apply it to other companies. Like you guys could look it up with AMC, right? Because AMC is a movie theater, and no one's really going to see movies anymore. But tons of people were buying AMC stock because it doesn't really have so much value as it used to before the pandemic.
Right.
So because of all of that, GameStop prices really shot up as millions of people around the country just decided to pour money into it. I think that it went up from being worth around $5 to like peaking at around 350 to 450, something in that range. Which means that if you had
Wow.
bought one share worth $5, that means that those $5 would have become 350. So if you apply that to
Ah,
lots and lots more
wow,
money,
oh wow,
that means that
wow.
you just made a lot of money on this
Right.
one small
So
company that's totally random.
right, so what is the deal then with like the mutual funds?
Or the
Right.
hedge
Do,
funds.
do,
So
do you know what I'm
right.
talking about?
So a mutual fund is a slightly different concept from what I think you're going for.
Right, no,
A
I'm
mutual
saying
fund
it
is when
wasn't like this is what like I heard.
right, you're referring to the hedge funds.
Right, right. Isn't this is what I heard that
Right.
like something
Mhm.
like they wanted to get back or something like that at the hedge
Right,
funds, right? So
Okay.
you're gonna explain that?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool, cool,
Right.
great.
So, there are all these people online, right, who are investing all of their money into GameStop, right? But how the stock market works is that if lots and lots of people decide to invest money in something at one time, the value shoots up as it did with GameStop, right? This is a very, very complicated process, which is why if you're investing, it's worth looking into, not just because it's there's potential to make money, but also just because it's very interesting and it teaches you a lot about our market system. But there's this idea called stock shorting, right? So when you short a stock, you're essentially doing the opposite of what regular investors are doing. So the way it works, it's a multi-step process. The first thing that you do is that you need to borrow stocks from someone willing to lend them to you. So sometimes, usually a stockbroker, which is the person online who will sell you these stocks, the stockbroker can tell you, "Oh, I have stocks for you to borrow in exchange for a small lending fee," which is okay. You could do that, right? Let's say you say, "Okay, I want 100 of your GameStop shares, and you have to pay $100 in interest if you keep them for a certain amount of time, right?" So then those shares are temporarily under your custody. They are owned by the other person, but they're under someone else's custody. So while you own those shares, what you can now do is you could say to other people, "Oh, do you want to buy these shares from me?" And what you are hoping will happen is that they'll buy the shares and the shares value will go down, right? Why would they want that? That seems crazy, right? The reason why you would want that for the shares value to go down is so that you could then buy them back for a lower price, right? Because if you think about it, you had these very valuable shares that other people bought from you, right? So let's say, take for example, I have $100, right? I spent $100 on GameStop. Um, I want to sell to Aton. Aton buys it from me for $100, right? Then what happens is GameStop's value plummets. It drops like crazy, and it goes down to, this is almost an unreasonable margin. It drops 40% down to $60. So
Wow.
now I could buy the shares back from you for $60 and return them to the lender, right? That means that for every single share, my profit was $40. It takes a second to think about the math, but it's essentially the complete
He
polar
goes in the
opposite
lowest
of
track.
investing.
Me over
Right.
here.
I
It's a little confusing.
don't know if
But
that helps.
the thing with it is that you are essentially betting that you want a stock to go down while other investors are
Right, 'cause
hoping the
don't they
stock will go
like
up.
something like don't they like have like a very like understanding is a stretch even like something like don't they like make money if like the value goes down?
Right, exactly. So
So
Yeah.
they're
what
kind of
happened
like
here?
they're kind of like gambling that the value of the stock will go down.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
they're betting that
And
the
what happens if it goes
go
up?
down.
Right. So that's the most interesting thing.
That's
in
what
the
happened.
situation that you're
Isn't this
shorting
where
out
it comes in? Like this is our
Right.
story.
Right. So what happened was that essentially, if you are shorting out the stock, right? What's the best thing that can happen? The best thing that could happen is that it could go down as low as possible and you make all the money,
Right,
right?
right.
But let's say a stock
Goes
shoots
up
up in
100%.
value,
Right.
right? If it goes up, you lose it. You lose all that money and you have to buy them back. So there's a concept in
Oh.
economics that
It's on a house. So
I
just
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it has a specific name, but let's say you were buying a stock, right? Either one of you guys, you're buying a
Right.
stock. It's worth $10. What's the worst thing that could happen?
it'll go
Lose
down
all your money.
$10.
Right. If it goes down $10, the company goes bankrupt, and just like that, you lose
Right,
all the money you put
because
in.
the maximum you could lose is $10.
Right. Maximum you could lose is $10. If you're shorting a stock, and that stock jumps up 20, to
Wait, what does shorting a
$30,
stock mean again? You said it earlier, but I
shorting is
forgot.
when you're betting that it will go down
Oh, okay.
through that process that I explained before.
Right.
So if you're betting on a stock, like you're shorting out a stock,
Right.
and the stock goes up, you could, in theory, lose as much money as the stock goes up by.
I thought you would gain money.
So why don't they?
if
This
it goes
sounds
up.
like a
but
dumb
it's not going
question.
down. Right.
It sounds like a dumb question, but like, why don't they just not sell it back? Just like keep it. Like, if they don't sell it back, then don't they just not lose money if they just hold on
Because
to
you
it?
have to give them back to the person who you borrowed them from.
When? Like, is there a
in
time?
a hedge fund? Didn't you tell me that?
Right. So that's the situation here. So what happened was that there are these hedge funds on Wall Street, right? I don't know if it's a new concept to some people listening, but what a hedge fund does is essentially they will try to make money from private investors will give them money, and they will take that money and try to invest it into other companies in order to make a profit. A similar idea called
Okay.
mutual funds. They're slightly different. I don't need to get into the intricacies of that, but in this specific case, there were two major hedge funds. One of them is called Melvin Capital, and the other one is called, I believe it's Point 72. It's owned by Steve Cohen, who's the owner of the Mets.
Right.
Go Mets. I'm a Yankees fan, but yeah. So
For
what happened
Josh
was
over
that
there, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So these hedge funds, these two hedge funds, were betting that they were trying to we took up what's called a short position on GameStop. I just explained that before. So when they took up the short position, right?
Meaning
that's
they're
just
betting
them-
it's gonna go down.
Right, they're betting it's going to go down.
Yeah.
So what that meant is that tons and tons of these investors online who already made all their profit on Reddit decided to totally throw this back in their faces. So in a situation when normally tons of people would sell their stock so that the value would the value would
You'd
go
get the value
down,
back.
but you would get the money back
Right,
and you would get
right.
the money that you collected by buying the shares of these companies.
Right, because you just think it's gonna go further down.
Right, exactly. If tons of people had
But
sold
it
at
doesn't.
once, that's what would have happened. But instead, when when these Reddit investors got wind that these hedge funds were pouring in massive sums of money, they all decided that it would be hilarious and rather, it would be giving power to the people in a way if they just poured more and more money into GameStop. So essentially what that meant is that everyone who came up short actually had the worst imaginable situation happen to them, right?
Because all of their stock,
Shut up.
yeah,
They were betting it would
skyrocketed.
go
That's what I was
down.
gonna say.
They were betting it was going to go down, and the stocks
You might not.
skyrocketed.
Do you know off the top of your head around how much percent it went up?
I don't know the exact percentage.
Right,
I
okay.
know that GameStop, I think the highest lowest point to the highest rise that took in the last week, like 2 weeks, was 130. I'm not sure what time
Wow.
period that was in, but it rose 130% over a very small period of time. But essentially, because the stock jumped up instead of going down, Melvin Capital, which is a massive hedge fund, lost $2.1 billion,
Wow.
Jeez.
Wow.
which is crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
It totally, changed everything up. So, I mean, obviously this is
How is
open
that,
for
like-
discussion. Yeah.
How's that like even possible? Like, how much they lost more money than they put in?
Well, because
right?
as Josh
Like-
mentioned before, they were betting that they shorted the stock. They were betting that it was going to go down, and then the complete opposite
It
happened.
skyrocketed.
That's my understanding.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Wow.
So I
So
mean, obviously, our economy is a very unique situation that something like this could happen,
I was about to say
and
that.
I
Do you
think that
think? I don't know if you'd like to share this, but do you think that like is like okay, like legal? Like, you think that should be allowed? You think something should change? If you don't
so.
mind
It's a
sharing.
very very interesting question.
Or like some would say like that's like the beauty of the market. That's the freedom of the market.
Right.
That's what some would
So
say.
that
Right.
is definitely
Like
an idea that
anyone
is in the
can do it.
consideration of many people now. And what I think, I should open this for discussion to you guys. Um, the issue that's really at hand here is that if tons of people are concentrating money onto one very specific side of the stock market, these a few stocks that people are hoping will shoot up, there's no telling what the effect on the overall economy could be. Right? It's this diversion of money to very, very specific sources, and it's pretty much impossible to tell, will other people panic and start selling all of their shares and everything?
Right,
Because that's,
which could affect the entire market, you're saying.
right, that's how the stock market collapses. This week, it happened to be that NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, which are two of the main markets
Right.
that we have here in America, um, dropped, like, they plummeted. It was crazy. It was one of the highest drops. I think it was the highest drop, and it was pretty close too. Not that close, but to when it really dropped at the beginning of the pandemic.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that the important discussion that I think we should talk about for a bit is that this obviously is a lot more power to the people of America, but the question is that necessarily a good thing? Should the people have the power to control our financial institutions, or should that largely be in the hands of these experienced wealthy hedge funds? Which, granted, we're kind of hoping that the stock would fail, but it's up for discussion.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We don't want to hold you too long here because we've probably gone like 10 minutes over what we told you would come on, but that's what happens. So
Thank you, Josh.
huge thank you to Josh to coming on, and let us know if you want to see more of him, which you definitely will in the future. And yeah, so now on to our next topic. um, uh, so now on to now on to the debate question. That was like a 3 second gap, but
uh,
yeah,
whoa.
little sloppy here tonight I should say, but yeah, for the debate question tonight, crafted a debate question by not yours truly, by ours truly, Aton.
Thank you.
I
Thank
believe
you.
that was from the top of your head, or was it Google?
It was a little bit of Google. I saw like something about bullying, and then like the question under was like some legal thing. So
Right. So
combine the two.
yeah, if you have any good any good debate questions, email us, tweet at us, tag us in
We
anything.
are open to suggestions as
As
always, right,
I was about to
Josh?
say, as always. And yeah, so excuse me. The debate question that had my had an inner debate with myself when I saw Aton put this one in. I was like, ooh, that was a good one. So
Thank you.
let's get to the question. The question is, should students be held legally responsible for bullying? Man, that was a great question there by Aton.
Thanks.
Wow. Wait,
So
why don't you
first,
give us your statement to start off?
yeah, so just my statement is basically like there obviously is many types of bullying, verbally, physically and whatever. So like a few things I want to say, like I think for physically, if someone like, like Josh, you're ugly, punch you in the face, you should be charged as, if you're a minor, because if you're bullying, you're probably under 18, you should be charged as a minor for assault. And I think also for, for verbally, you should be, you should be charged as, again, a minor, because you are. You should be charged for harassment. I think like it's definitely like a I know like this question is like it brings like tensity because like like oh it's just a kid. So like I don't know, it's hard to say like okay just like put them in jail and screw over their entire life, probably go on some list and never get a job, just because they didn't like Mark that day and punch him in the face. So it's just like it's hard to just say like okay your future's ruined, like let's put this into law, like but also you can't just bully. So it's like two different things are weighing me down. Like what do you think, Josh?
It's a good question. Fantastic question, actually. And I really thought about this one. It was a really good question, as I just said that 3 times. But you know, it's hard for me to put a child in, not, it doesn't even necessarily have to be jail. You got a juvenile detention, whatever. Where they can really, really turn it around. As for an older person, you made a decision. It's not how it works, really.
Right.
It's very tough, but I think ultimately I do not really think that they should be legally charged. I think that the schools need to do a significantly better job dealing with it. I think they need to be more on top of it. I do definitely think that. But I mean, I can't do that. I can't be putting, I can't do that. I just can't, when many of the times, they just, think either they're just playing around, or even if they're not, they really do mean the meanness. A lot of times they do end up becoming real criminals, and other times they really do become, solid people. And, now you can make the same argument about like a let's say bank robber. I think it's different because, we're speaking about children here.
Yeah, but just because it's on school grounds doesn't mean they have to like apply, like be not like they can't just doesn't mean they get away from the law. Like the question is like, can a minor be charged with assault? And like a juvenile, I'm just reading it here from a quick Google search. A juvenile can be charged with a simple assault for injuring another person, threatening or attempting to injure another person, even for making another person afraid. That's pretty much what happens in really like bullying situations, either threats or, actually physically hurting them, like I'm gonna like beat you up, like stuff like that. Like, okay, so if they do it at home, not in school, then they could be charged, but if they're in school, then it's the school's fault. I that's the only flaw I see.
I'm not necessarily saying it's the school's fault. Rather, I just think it would be more effective, or less harmful, I would say, than to just throw the kid and just really, I think, derail him. I think that would do more harm than good for bullying. When, a lot of time, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean
But the problem with
it
me
still is
saying this is
bullying.
is like, I have a problem with me even saying this, because I don't know what it is, but I don't necessarily apply the same for, let's say, like a murderer. Let's say, like, for me, if one murders them, I don't care about their I don't care about their childhood. I don't care if their father's abusive. You murdered someone, then whatever it is, you should be put in
Right.
jail. I don't care. I don't think that they should necessarily be sent to rehab. I think that they should get life sentence. Even death penalty could even be appropriate sometimes, in my opinion.
Right.
That's a whole nother discussion, but you know what I mean. That's why I'm having so difficulty saying this, is because like I'm like challenging myself, because it doesn't make sense to me. Like, there's just a problem for me putting a child, derailing him or her so much. I just think it would do more harm than good.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's like a tough situation, because like at the same time this kid did something, like if you look at the law, it's illegal. But he's a minor, and this could be his entire life that you're throwing away, or making him more angry, or bullying more people, just like a phase, he's not actually a bully, or he's not actually a bad person. So that's why it gets like tough, each situation is different, but also like it's just so hard to say, because like if you like look like, oh, if I did a quick Google search, assault charges for a minor, and yeah, they can be assaulted. I mean, assaulted, they can even be charged for threatening to assault someone, or attempting. So I mean, like, if you look at that, then yeah, they should be legally responsible, if they do assault someone in like a bullying situation. The other thing is like it's a kid,
I
and
put aside what would happen. What do you think should happen?
when someone is like, let's say
Yeah.
someone like beats someone up because they're
Yeah, what do you
bullying
think
them,
should
right?
happen? Not what would happen. What do you think should, morally,
So
what should happen?
I think the kid, and like this is what happens. They should be expelled from school. This is
Hmm.
normally what happens: expelled or suspension.
No,
Because
I think expelled. I like, if you're
yeah,
not expelling, and you're like, let's say like a kid is just outright bullying, and
yeah, but
as a principal
expulsion,
you
then
say
he's
as a principal you say, this child has a ouch, this this child has a place in my school. I can't see how one would justify that.
right. You can say the same thing about like the police saying like, yeah, this child cannot have like this like place in our community. He can't just be like going around bullying people, so he needs to be taken into custody. For assault. It
Yeah,
just gets tough,
that's what I'm saying. It's very hard because I can't apply the same thinking everywhere. You know what I mean? It's a hard question.
It got me like so thinking. I'm like left and right and
Yeah.
upside down. I'm like, I don't know, but this, but that, but like also
Right,
this.
right,
So.
right. But I would say this over there or whatever.
Yeah, but like Josh is that point, so
Right, right.
definitely gets your gears turning.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah. So wait. Oh, I almost finished up there. What is the answer to your trivia question? Let me guess.
Oh, all right.
Let me guess. Let me
We're
guess.
not touching on sports. Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah.
Happy Super Bowl Sunday, guys.
Yeah. When
Thank
this comes out, we'll leave it out for now. But
you.
my guess is 183. Complete guess.
183, like
Yeah, actually,
one
no. Including screws and bolts, like including that, it's ought to be more than that. 400.
in an average car. You think there are only 400 bolts and screws? Yeah.
Okay, fine. 7,000. No, you know what? No. What is it? What's the answer?
30,000.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Yeah, because it can either be like something really small or like huge.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying. Well, yeah. All right.
30,000. There
So
you go.
that's the end, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Follow us on Instagram at theyoungerhalf. Check us out on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe to us on YouTube channel at The Younger Half. And if you want to help us grow, consider supporting us on anchor.fm/theyoungerhalf/support or click on the link in the description for questions or comments. Email us at theyoungerhalf@gmail.org. At gmail.com. Not that org. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe.